Okay. All right, we're back into open session, and we're on our agenda, we're hearing of delegations. We have none, so we'll then move into the consent items. You should have all received them in your packet on Friday, and is there any questions? Todd, you looked over the invoices, all look good?
Yep.
All right, so that's great.
Make a motion to approve the consent items.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move then to the superintendent's report.
Quickly, the job fair and staffing. We held a job fair a week ago tonight. It'll be the second time that we've held the job fair. We went in with about, I think, 10 positions that we're looking for, 6 teacher associates, 4 food service workers, looking for substitutes in all those areas, including transportation as well. We had around 15 people attend the job fair, offered positions to many. I think we offered 10 positions. We do have 5 who have accepted and will be recommended later on in the meeting. Still in need of a few positions, specifically teacher associates, and I think a couple of food service as well. Hiring difficult for everyone. Not schools alone. It is not abnormal for us to be short teacher associates at this point in the year. What is tough is, can we find them? That's what's changed, is if those people are available. SIAC group, that's a group a couple of you are part of. It includes our community members, parents, teachers, former teachers. It's the School Improvement Advisory Committee. We kind of rekindled that group last year, came together, talked about use of ESSER funds, talked about data, where our schools' rankings and performance profile put us. We're set to have a meeting to kick off this year, August 16th at 5:30 in the high school library. The main agenda item there will be our assessment review from last spring. So Mrs. Eishen's going to lead us through that. Our board retreat is Wednesday from 5 to 7. On our agenda that we posted today is reorganization with the Laverne Community School District. Philosophically, the futures of school schedules, including what a 4-day week looks like for schools, assessment data, future facility planning, and school safety. And that will be out at the Lusher Farm.
2106 100th Avenue. And I'll write that down for you guys.
Okay, very good. We'll get that address to everyone, 2106 100th Avenue. Start of school, it's right here. Next week we'll have new teachers in on Monday and Tuesday, August 15th and 16th. We did bring our new teachers in June, so we think we're ahead of the game from where we usually are, and we feel really good about that, so they can really get working and get going to prepare for students next week. The 17th, 18th, and 19th, then we'll have all of our teachers, professional development, work time, which we want to give them all to prepare for our first day of school, which is on August 23rd. 23rd for 5 through 12, August 24th for K through 4. So excited about that, and we are almost there.
Great to see school being back in, just even with all the athletics that have started.
All the activities started today. We had band really going last week.
Yeah.
We have the sports teams started officially today, so it's exciting to see kids around, more staff around, and next week we'll have everyone here.
Any questions for Joe? All right, hearing none, we'll go then move into our new business, and we'll start with the grade appeal, closed session.
Like I said, we heard information in closed session. Motions, there's a couple motions that could be made. A motion to accept the grades as presented, or a motion to accept the grade appeal due to one of the 4 criteria that we've discussed.
Any discussion or motions that we have? Okay, I would need then a motion.
I will make a comment,
Okay.
and I think I'm feeling this. We have some really poor judgment by a staff person. And I think that needs to be addressed by our administrative team, and I know it will be. This teaching profession is a great profession. It is a teamwork between kid, family, and the teachers. And we failed in part of that process. So it needs to be addressed. And I know Mr. Cecil and administrative team will do that.
And Tom, I couldn't agree with you more. Mr. Cecil couldn't agree with you more. It's stuff that him and I have had many lengthy conversations about over the past weeks. I'm disappointed for sure what got us there. There's no doubt about it.
It's definitely, I think, a tough decision for the board, and appreciate the family coming in and speaking with us this evening, and agree with Tom, and I think, and your comments too as well, Joe. It looks like we've got some opportunities to improve around communication and whatnot. On the other hand, if we look at the policy and the code, I don't believe it meets the criteria of overturning based on one of those 4 criteria. So I would make a motion that we accept the grades as presented.
We have a motion to accept the grade as presented. Do we have a second?
I would second the motion because I know the criteria and the standards. And while we have poor judgment, it does not meet the standard of the compass.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? I think just as everybody said, I think we're all feeling that the same way, and I appreciate our administrators addressing that as soon as possible, and Joe. So, and no further discussions then? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion approved to accept the grade as presented. All right, moving on to the next one. Appointed delegate, representative, and alternate.
The Iowa Association of School Board Board of Directors is convening for a special assembly on Tuesday, September 13th to consider some proposed bylaw amendments, proposed bylaws changes. It is a time-sensitive matter, which is why they have called to convene for a special assembly. They can't wait till November. We need to appoint a delegate to attend that delegate representation. Rodney has done that for us before. That would make sense. And then we should also appoint an alternative representative. Tom would be a good choice because he will be present as an IASB board member as well. So we need to appoint a representative and an alternative representative to attend that special assembly.
I'll make a motion to appoint Rodney and Tom as the alternative to attend the assembly.
Thanks for your, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Jay. We have a motion and a second for the delegate and the alternative. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
That meeting will be 6 o'clock, Zoom meeting.
Okay.
You'll need to register for the meeting. Between myself or Joe will get you the information how to register.
I think I have that.
And I'm going to register for the meeting to attend because we also need a quorum of X number of people attending across the state. Although I cannot vote, you're the voting person. September 13th, 6 o'clock p.m. Zoom.
I did look at calendars. I've got it in the calendar. It should, I will attend that.
Okay.
Yep. So, we have a motion second then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approve the high school handbook.
Mr. Cecil is here to talk about some changes to the high school handbook.
All right, you have two links on the agenda. One is handbook carryover. So the first one, generic, the long version is handbook, and everything in there as has been approved in past years, so no changes to that part. With that exception, 3 things that we took out of the handbook for next year. One of them was the open enrollment language about timely open enrollments and all those rules as they've changed. Also, if you go online to find the handbook, you go online to find the open enrollment piece, so it really need to be part of our handbook versus school policy. Our study hall and commons rules, we're incredibly outdated and not real. I think we still had no chewing gum, a couple other things in the study hall rules. I had some kids last year ask me if they were violating the rules by playing Uno during study hall. And I thought, what a nice thing, the kids are playing Uno and talking to each other versus noses in their phones. So took study hall rules and commons rules out. We don't have individual classroom rules in the handbook, so we don't need that for study hall. I'm trying to downsize it some. The last one we took out of there is open campus, just because open campus is applied for each year by the seniors. It's its own document, and open campus really means release during the study hall time, which we do as needed and revoke as needed. So it's kind of its own separate thing and not really for everybody. So those three things disappeared from there.
And that open campus is just available to seniors, is that?
It is
I
available to
understand?
seniors. The past few years, we've had juniors during study hall with parent permission. We go back and forth. Part of that becomes a staffing issue. We prefer they're here, and we're working towards that again this year, but to man that sometimes is the
Sure.
challenge. Theirs was study hall, only seniors have a few more perks with theirs. But again, case by case, kid by kid, sometimes that goes away. Sometimes it stays. It's really wordy in the handbook, and the reality is you are responsible with it, you're gonna keep it. You're responsible with it, and we pull back a little bit when we have those conversations. The other document you have that's on the screen now is really looking at our attendance. The attendance policy that was in there was really reactive. It stated this happens at this time, this happens at this time. Certainly not in alignment with restorative practices and some of the conversations we want to be having. Last year, I think last year, maybe the year before, we changed out a lot of the discipline language in there to match practice and to match a lot of our restorative thoughts. And again, overall, even format, what it looks like, all of our handbook a lot of our handbook is still in what needs to be for that 5x8 print, which we don't print anymore, haven't in years, so it's all online. So trying to make it a little more user-friendly. But the essence of the attendance policy and procedures here are what it states. Our goal, we want every student, every period, every day. We list the reasons and the benefits of attending. So again, trying to shift from don't attend and here's what happens to you to here's what happens to you when you do attend. The other reality, any attendance policy that ends in dropping a student, while that may become necessary at times, if that's the bulk of the policy, any student dropped from a class gets further away from graduation. Okay, gets further away from the connectedness with us in the school. We think that middle section is pretty important, the roles and pathways. As we had in some of our earlier conversations, there's a lot of players in the game here. So parent and guardian certainly plays a role. The students play a role. The classroom teacher plays a role. Connect and collaborate with. That's essential for that relationship. Then the office, both the technology in the office as well as the personnel in the office. The next section lays out the process. So again, as a parent, if you're looking at this, what do I need to do? Well, if my son or daughter is going to be gone, notify the office. The office will issue a pass. That's the next step. Teachers submit attendance at the beginning of the period. Try and correct any ones. Sometimes attendance gets taken and the student's not there, and they show up 5 minutes into that class. The teacher's in the middle of teaching, and I don't want them to stop and run over into the computer. So I want to keep teaching, so we try and correct those as they go. And then the office follows up with anyone who's truant or absent and excuse the students that aren't accounted for. That's involved in Mr. Morgan's work. So close it up with some additional information underneath there. When our school day starts, when the classes meet, or how long the classes are. There's a distinction there from tardy to absent. We really try and work through that, right, and have some flexibility with it. You can't show up 70 minutes late to an 80-minute period and say, no, it's just late. You missed the bulk instruction. Exempt and approved. And one of our works this year, just in knowledge of parents, we talked about a lot this summer, met a lot of times. Really the belief maybe, our parent world is, well, if I call in, it's excused. And so excused really gets gray and messy. So we want parents to call in. We need parents to call in. We know where they are. But calling in every day to say your kid's not coming doesn't really excuse it. It doesn't change the attendance. So we have some work to do on that and some communication with parents to get on that. The second to last bullet, we have increased or bumped up our time for participation in events. Past times we've been, my time here, it's fluctuated. Previously, most recently, we've been at noon as the time to get here. We have some kids and some families that take too much advantage of that. We're in a block schedule, so if you don't have to be here till noon, if you have fifth and seventh period as a study hall and an open period, it means you don't have to be here at all during the day, and then you still represent us at nights. There's a lot of that doesn't feel right. So 10 o'clock will hit us in our advisory time. We put a lot of stock in our advisory time and making those connections. So 10 o'clock is the time to be here if you want to be eligible for that evening. With that, exceptions by myself or Mr. Jacobson are made. We get those calls. You know, this is the only day that I can see a specialist in Mason City. Go see the specialist. You did it the right way. You talked to us ahead of time. We greenlight that pretty easy. We have bereavement leaves. Those are the ones that are probably the most panic calls. We have to be gone. Here's the situation. We take care of those. But the I'm sick and I'm showing up to school late. I'm just running late today. Bumping that up to a 10 o'clock start time. And then the last note on there, excessive tardiness analysis. Even though I talked about dropping a student gets them further from graduation and farther from us, there are times that they become excessive enough that we need to look at modifying what their plan is. They may have some other things to do on the side. They may have some time they're making up. It may be a shift to a credit recovery type of time.
All right, any questions about those updates and changes? All right, hearing none, we then need a motion for approval.
Will we require parents or students signing these so they know the changes, or?
It is part of it'll be part of the handbook and to start the school year.
Okay.
Parents and students verify that they understand it and are responsible to it. So, this one in beginning of year assembly, any changes to the handbook be covered there personally. So, yes, sir.
Okay. All right, any other questions? All right, then we need a motion and a second.
I make a motion to approve the handbooks for fiscal year 23.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Lori. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving into more handbooks, coaches handbook.
Yeah, our last one for the year, the Coach's Handbook, which is, it's been something that has not been updated in a few years. Mr. Jacobson worked this summer to really update it and make it more accurate. There's a lot of changes when you look by number, but they really fall under some specific things. A couple of the things is adding girls wrestling as a sport that we added last month. There's some conference changes in terms of divisional awards for some certain sports, so it removed that from the wording. Also added boys and girls soccer and tennis to a list of sports conference championships are awarded in. They're not sports that we have in Algona, but a lot of conference information is in the Coach's Handbook. Goes on to say 12th graders can play on JV level. Changes from freshman team to 9-10 to match our conference classifications for those. There's some attendance changes to reflect what Mr. Cecil just talked to us about, such as to participate, they have to be in school by 10 a.m., 11 a.m. on late start days. Remove the requirement of written proposal to be a volunteer coach. Volunteer coaches are approved by you guys. We handle all of our volunteer coaches the same way that we handle our contracted coaches, so there's no reason to have specific requirements for them or things that we keep from them, such as keys, for example. We certainly need them to have keys in lots of cases. Attendance policy, like I talked about, remove the $5 for sectional and district meet. That would not be accurate. Sectional and district meets would be higher than that. Change the sentence that students are not allowed to participate in 2 sports to be that they can, with an agreement between coaches, parents, and players, and how that they will be shared and how that could operate, which I think is a good thing for kids. Remove the restriction of morning practice at 6:30 and change it to morning practice should be discussed. We don't believe it's best practice to go earlier than that, but there may be a time when 6:15 is where that needs to be. Our weight room is often open at 6:15. Change family and church night to simply mean family night, and that's because we want to secure the protection of that night for our students, our family, and our staff, not to just one activity, but the night in general. So we think it does protect that better for us, and change the lettering criteria to read all lettering procedures should be communicated in the preseason. This is some absent stuff that we talked about as well.
Changes look good to me.
Yeah. Did a really good job working on it. Everything in there is good change for our kids.
Great. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then we need a motion.
Was there a change in there just now? Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Was there a change in there, something about middle school will be done at a certain time? Or that it had to be, practices were done by 6:30, or was that in this one?
Is
I
it
think
a
there's
change
that
while
all students are out of the
building?
building by 6:30 PM, and I believe that's on Wednesdays is what that
Right.
is. Yeah.
Is there a way to put in there that practice would end at a certain time so kids had time to, I mean, all students will be out, or what time does practice actually end? So they have time to shower or whatever?
Well, that's the expectation, that students would be, if they're out of the building, they have time to do all those things for sure.
So the coaches are, because that's a comment that I've had in the past, that, to get them out on Wednesday nights, that
Yep.
sometimes they're not done until 6:30.
Right. And that's why the wording is that all students are out of the building, not that practices conclude, that all students are out of the building.
Okay.
I think one of the difficulties on a specific time, Mr. Jacobson had talked that, what time you end practice at the football field fully padded, a walk away from the school is a lot different than what time volleyball says we're done. So I think that's really tough to think about putting a specific time on it.
Okay.
Both of them just make sure they're out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, then we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the changes to the, what is it? The
Coaches.
handbook,
Coaches handbook, yep.
as documented here.
That's presented. You bet. All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, thanks, Jay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discuss the alternative school.
Now, is that what we had next?
That's what I see.
Yep, you're right.
Okay.
I got ahead of myself. Alternative school, it's something that we've had in our memos a couple different times. Mr. Cecil and I have really been in ongoing discussion, going on probably 2 years, about the alternative school, and that we have students who are in need of an alternative educational plan to be successful. Historically, the district had an alternative school years ago. When at-risk funds became more available, many of those alternative schools then came in-house. We have an at-risk TNT, which stands for Teens in Transition program. Right now, we're trying to meet the needs of our teens in transition, oftentimes students who need to recover credit, in the same environment of students who are in need of an alternative educational plan. And the result is I think we've been less effective at both because of that. Mr. Cecil and his team, they probably 6 to 10 to 12 students who could possibly need an alternative educational plan. I don't think we would ever go beyond that. There could be less, which would be a good thing. It'd be great to not have kids in there. We have found a room that's available for $250 a month at the Iowa Lakes Community College. That would be a PEPAL expense, not a general fund expense. My recommendation to you guys is to hire a half-time teacher to work in the alternative school, for us to try this model with that off-site location to help us better meet the needs of really two groups, the kids who need the alternative educational plan as well as some of our at-risk teens. Mr. Cecil is here to answer any questions that anyone would have. I do, like I said, I would recommend the addition of the alternative school. The off-site, there's probably pros and cons to it. Pro being, I do believe they need the alternative location. Con being, it's a long ways from us. So, them getting there and making sure they're there, there's some barriers to that. And I think that's certainly something for us to think about. And there's maybe things we could do to help with that as well.
Would that teacher be funded by the at-risk dollars?
It would be funded by at-risk dollars. Lisa and I reviewed some of those today. Certainly something that we can do is fund that through our at-risk.
And what grade levels?
High school.
9, 12, 10, 12?
Might be getting I might be getting ahead of myself on specifics there. Probably not 9. Am I right there?
It would be very difficult to have a situation where it included 9th grade students, even in 10th grade. I would assume it would be pretty rare. So a lot of it would be looking junior, senior year.
What would be the time frame on this? How quickly would we be able to get this up and started?
I think we would give it a shot right now.
You find a person to do the job.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I think they have enough thoughts and discussions of the program we could go right now. We just got to find a half-time teacher to do it.
And would you take it for, in addition to the school year, the summer months also, are you thinking, or strictly school year?
I don't
We don't
know.
know yet.
I don't know if I know the specifics to that.
Yeah, I think it'd be based on where the student was at. There's also a lot of flexibility during the summer months. So while a student might be in an alternative program during the school year, during the summer months, we have probably some ability to move that in-house. Because this is an alternative setting when nobody's around it. It's not the same
Right.
as the functioning school day, so I can see, if a student was making great progress and had 1 or 2 classes to finish up, I certainly wish that we were able to go through the summer, but we could probably bring it in-house, and it might not even be staffed by the same person.
One difference, when schools used to have alternative educational placements like Algona did, you could also have alternative diplomas at that time. That is not something you can do anymore. So people who would graduate from this alternative educational location would still need to meet the requirements. And those are the people who, Mr. Cecil and his team, they're going to look at people who, with an alternative plan, can meet those requirements, that we can get there, that we can get to be successful. Those are the kids who would be ideal for this program.
It was 10 or so years ago when East Fork closed. At the same time, or within months, Radnor closed. Shortly after that, Acsd changed rules, and we expanded rapidly in those years of program. Also, traditionally, the only way to recover credit was to retake a class, be in a classroom for a full semester. So that credit recovery component with some technology has also changed. So that's where we get this mix of some students who really need alternative, and some students who just need to show up 1 period a day, 1 period, 1 blocks, and recover 1 credit or maybe 2 credits. So those students don't have the same needs. But right now, we haven't housed yet.
Have you asked several of them that maybe you would consider that this might be a better fit for them, what they think about it, or would they be excited about something like this?
Yes, no, maybe. just like if you ask any high school group questions. You know, sometimes what we need isn't what we want. Sometimes their success or failures are based on the number of distractions around them. And so, some, yes, some, and get all that away from me, I can go. Right now, students who tend to choose that, choose the asset program. Which means they have ties with us and they go out to the Iowa building and they work on the classes.
Yep.
A text from a mom a week ago, a student who just finished. It was a good plan for them. We really feel bad that we don't have a plan that
Yeah.
can that, part of our system. And different than when it was East Fork, it's our program. It's a high school classroom. It's just physically located in a spot. So access to counselors, access to us, access to special ed, any of those are still us.
So would it be the same time frame as what the school is, or would it start later?
Yeah, looking at half days and really trying to figure out, and again, one of the next steps is to work with Merrill. Would like to tie that either the beginning or the end of the day when we're already running buses, but potentially then a midday, either delivery if we start in the morning or a midday pickup if we start at the afternoon, which will fluctuate again based on what drivers he has and what the routes are. So midday is a lot more flexible than the end of the day. So I really want to, leaning, I would say, or always leaning towards the later part of the day. So really depending on students.
Then, I guess, is that gonna be a computer one-on-one thing like our TNT room? And if so, was there gonna be additional cost for that software and hardware and stuff, or?
It would be the same Edgenuity subscription that we have right now. So
No additional, no.
likewise, if a student was working on one or two of those classes here and then evolved to needing full-time, that there's no reset, it is carried on.
Gotcha, okay.
Or anything we can do to keep a kid in school, graduate, achieve, and succeed, we're in favor of.
Yeah.
And I think this is a good plan worth considering.
I think it's beneficial to reach all of our learners at what point or what area they need, barring we find the right person for it.
Yep.
Because the last thing we want to do is have headaches away from our building that still have our name on it.
Right, right.
So it will require someone who's suited to supervise those things.
I make a motion to approve the alternative school.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I would second that motion.
Thanks, Tom. We have a motion and a second to recommend the addition of the alternative school location. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Talk a little bit about board policies.
And this is a first reading, so there's no approval of these tonight. But these are all board policy changes that are due to legislative changes during the last session. In your handout I gave you, there's some colors. Green is addition, red is taken out, and I'll do my best to explain those where I can. Board Policy 203, Board Directors, Conflict of Interest. Really, it takes where a board member could not make more than $2,500 from the school before. Now that's $20,000. And again, I think, a lot of the rationale to do that is, well, we might need board members to drive buses and, do some of those other things. So they raised that up, so I think that's a good change. Board Policy 402.2, Child Abuse Reporting. There's a change in the third paragraph that once the training course has been taken, the certificate will remain valid for 3 years. It used to be that the course will be retaken at least every 5 years. Board Policy 501.14, these are the open enrollment changes. We've talked about them. We've even acted on some open enrollments with the deadlines now removed. We have some later in our meeting as well. So the changes in the policy is to comply with that. So it gets rid of the March 1st deadlines. So that's for the sending district as well as the receiving district. Board Policy 505.5, graduation requirements. one that we just reviewed in this last year. The change is very small. We probably should have made it when it happened, but that the policy says beginning with the class of 2022, well, we can strike that now, right? Because that class is gone, so it's now just graduation requirements for special ed students will include, which we already had. So it's just a grammar thing there. Policy 507.2, administration of medication to students. The change is by law, students with asthma, airway constricting diseases, respiratory distress, so it adds respiratory distress to this. That's what the change does. Board Policy 607.2, Student Health Services. There's a large addition to this, and really, to summarize it, it's that if we are going to make sure I'm in the right one here, screen children, parents, we have parent consent, which would have been practiced anyway, but wasn't written in board policy. It also was a change to include that the superintendent, in conjunction with not only the school nurse, but also a health advisory committee, public health nurse, school health team. Some of that's very easy for us because our school nurses are contracted from public health, so we already have that connection. Those are the changes due to legislative change. There's one other, Board Policy 71004 is an additional policy that we currently do not have, but I believe is needed. The policy does reflect current practice. However, in our audit that we go through every year, remember one of the things that always shows up in our audit is negative student lunch accounts. And it's something that we're always working on and being successful. As we've went back and looked at year to year, we are making those smaller. The amount of debt is smaller, there's no doubt about it, but we don't have board policy to reflect what our actions are. So this is a completely new policy. We don't have 71004. To summarize it, when a balance, a student account reaches zero, they can't charge more than 100 more negative. It would stop there. They can't have any more a la carte items until the negative's paid. A student who qualifies for free meals, no one is denied a reimbursable meal. No child's ever going to be denied a meal. It just puts some parameters on when we stop excess spending in some of those negative accounts. It then goes into, if it is negative, that we may include a collection agency, small claim court, or other legal methods permitted, which is our practice. That is what we currently do in those situations. So again, taking current practice, making it policy, I think is probably a good idea.
So Joe, just to clarify in my mind too, maybe, but, so if they get the free meals, they pay for the a la carte though?
Right.
So that's the same thing as the paragraph above, the $100?
Correct.
Okay.
A question on 5.5.5, halfway down. Graduation requirements for special ed. Is this the ISB language on this?
It is, yep.
Make sure I-
We changed that just this past year. That 5055 was one, because you used to be able to have an alternative diploma or
Yeah.
alternative requirements, that you cannot have those now.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion?
There's no motion there,
No
so we
motion
can
necessary.
move on to Iowa Lakes contracts. We have all three of our Iowa Lakes contracts, Auto Tech, Broadcasting, Nurses Aid, and then Career Connect. Auto Tech, that's our program with Mr. Tim Rickliffs that we're able to teach in our building. It's an Iowa Lakes program that's taught at Algona High School. The same thing for Broadcasting. That's a Iowa Lakes program that's taught at now going to high school. Nurses Aid are some classes that we offer to our students that are taught by, again, an Iowa Lakes employee, as are the other two. Those are also taught by Iowa Lakes employees. Career Connect is the courses that our students can take that are taught at Algona. For example, U.S. history, U.S. history, we pay $31.11 per credit, which is only 17% of total tuition. So we pay a lot less for those classes when our people teach them than what we would if they went to the college or took it online. So that's the contract for that, and that's the same amounts. None of those amounts changed in the Career Connect from last year to this year.
Okay, questions or discussions?
On the auto tech or broadcast tech or nurses aid programs.
Yep.
That are taught here at school. Do we actually have college kids come to the school, or it's just for the high schools?
We do not have any college kids. That would be an option, but we don't. I don't know if we ever have in your time, Mr. Cecil. It's always been our students. We could also get some Bishop Garrigan students.
We do have Bishop Garrigan students, we've also had West Hancock students
Yep.
before.
Yep.
I believe West Bend, maybe.
Right.
Once in the other, but
Is that like a tuition in type of thing, or? those other districts?
There's a weighting. So
Okay.
that student will be in our system and it's weighted. So we have,
Okay, okay.
when we get certified enrollment, there's always a little bit of additional weighting, and some of that comes from these courses.
On the broadcast tech one, how many students do we typically have in a program like that?
probably as low as 5 or 6, as high as, I think we're 12 to 18 maybe this year.
And that's an entire,
Recently.
that's several courses, as I look at when we talk about kind of more of a program as opposed
Yes.
to.
Yeah.
Yes, it would be a 2-year program, multiple courses for the student to take.
And at the end of that, how many, any idea how many credits they're gonna walk away with after 2 years?
Generically, auto construction and broadcast generically, if you take that your junior and senior year, you're about a sophomore level when you get to Iowa Lakes if you want to pursue it. So it's about a year's worth of, 2 years here, about a year's worth of.
Gotcha,
courses.
okay. So about 30 hours each, give or take.
All right, any further questions or discussions? All right, hearing none, then we need a motion to approve the contract with Iowa Lakes.
Make a motion to approve the contract with Iowa Lakes.
Thanks, Todd. Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Gloria. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Going into open enrollment.
Open enrollment, we anticipated we'd see some changes. I think August open enrollments of 9 that's a change. I don't think that's typical for us. So we have 9 open enroll-ins on the agenda. All 9 of these applications are into the district, like I said. All of them do meet all deadlines or state requirements for approval, which we know deadlines. The district could, if the student was not in good standing, that would be something that you didn't have to approve. I will certainly communicate with you guys when we have that situation. So if we get to this point, we have 9 open enroll applications in with students in good standing in their current district.
Now, do these have to be approved by the outgoing district also?
Well, I suppose they still do, but they legally cannot not
Okay,
approve
okay,
it.
that's what I was,
Right.
gotcha.
So looking at these with our elementary numbers, like the kindergarten, we have enough room.
Yeah.
There's-
You remember when we talked about when the policy, the open enrollment policy for the state changed, many school districts, maybe in like the metros, for example, they put caps that will only accept a certain number of open enrollment ends, and the reason is because they just couldn't handle. And we are not at that situation currently. We're fine, but there may become a time where we have to look at that, where 5 more first graders, and we would have to stop because it would be more sections or room that we have available. We aren't there yet. I hope we get there. That'd be a great problem to have, where we'd say we're full, we can't take any more, but we're not currently at that. Although we're a lot closer in some of the elementary places than what some people would probably think.
Make a motion to approve the 9 open enrollment requests.
Thanks, Andrea. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Lori. We have a motion and a second to approve the open enrollments. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Looking at personnel, we'll start with resignations.
We have 4 resignations. Nick Keeker from a high school intramurals contract that he held. Hannah Googie from a teacher associate. Lisa Holland, teacher associate. Caden Wadley, teacher associate.
We have a motion for the resignations.
Motion to approve the resignations.
Thanks,
I'll
Doc.
second it.
Thanks, Jay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we move into the last new contracts.
New contracts, we have 7 of them. Kathy Mosley in food service, Lindsay Baker, teacher associate at Lucia Wallace, Daniel Clemens in food service, David Solbach in food service, Tanya Zeman, teacher associate at Lucia Wallace, Nicole Rickey, teacher associate at Lucia Wallace, and Krista Kale, teacher associate at Lucia Wallace.
Mr. Wallace had a good month.
Yeah, and I still think we need one there, maybe 2. So we're,
Joe, you mentioned in your superintendent report you had that job fair.
yeah,
Offered 10 and 5 accepted, I believe.
yeah.
So that maybe we can address this down the road. What, did they give a reason why they
Yeah,
didn't
I
accept
think
it?
you guys would probably anticipate my response, but pay,
Okay.
and we've addressed it. I know when we increased it, we said it's low, and it is, guys. It's something we're going to have to address at a point that probably radically address it. And Lisa and I have already talked about it throughout this next year. We're going to put figures together because we're going to have to raise everyone, in the associates that work for us, ones who currently are, as well as ones that we bring in to compete more for some of these people.
All right, any other further discussion?
Good conversation to have.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right, I need a motion then to approve the new contracts.
Make a motion to approve the 7 new contracts, I think it is.
Thanks, Todd. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Lori. We have a motion and a second to approve new contracts. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're at our last agenda item. Is that a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Thanks, Jay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Andrea. We are adjourned. Don't forget Wednesday night, 5 o'clock.
5.
Yep,
5 o'clock, and we'll get that address to you. We'll send it out to everyone so they have it too.
Again, thank you for hosting this.
Very welcome.
You want these back to shred?
Yes,
Hit the red button, Mike.
what Rodney handed out, if we could have those back.
I was just going to mention that too.